Hi, I'm Ailbhe McDonagh and today we'll be discussing the parts of the cello and their names. So if we start from the very top of the cello, we have the scroll here, which literally looks like a scroll. Then we have the 4 pegs for the 4 strings. And those pegs, you can tune the strings if you're making a big change or if you're changing a string. They're all held in by the peg box, which is just this area here. You can see that the pegs come through to the other side of the peg box. Following that, we have this little strip here, which is called the nut. And you can see that the strings come up over this raised nut, and then that defines the height of the strings between this point and the bridge here. Then we have the 4 strings, and they go all the way down to the bridge, which is holding up the tension of the strings, and they come down to this point with the fine adjusters. So you have 2 points where you can tune the cello. One, the large pegs, and the other, the adjusters or fine tuners. That's really just for small changes when you need to adjust something in the tuning. Then we come back to this part here, which is the neck of the cello. You can actually see that it looks sort of like a human body actually when you think about it, and a lot of the names are based around that. So that's the neck, and then this is the main body of the instrument. So they call that the front or the belly or the body of the instrument. And then this here is the back. That's simply all they call it. And we get to this point here, and this they call the ribs of the instrument. And as we travel down, we have got the fingerboard. So the black part here where your fingers actually play, that's called the fingerboard. And then coming further down, we have the F holes. So there's 2 of these, and they look like an F and a backwards F, of course. And this is where the sound comes out of the whole wood of the cello. Then we continue down a little further, and we talked about the bridge earlier. So if you loosen the strings entirely with the pegs up here, you can actually take out the bridge itself. Now, it's being held up inside the cello. You can't see it, but you can sort of see it when you look. There's a sound post. So both the sound post and the bridge are holding up the tension of the cello. So if you took out the bridge, the sound post might fall down. So I wouldn't recommend that, but just to say that they're not glued on. So they actually are just standing by virtue of that. Having a look at the bridge, it's literally like an arch shape, like a bridge shape. And that's how we're able to play the angles of the 4 strings. Of course, if it was like this, we wouldn't be able to play the 2 inner strings at all in our angles. So we met our adjusters down here. This is the tail piece. And then we have the tail gut here, which you can see is just tied on to this bottom part here. And this is called the spike, or end pin if you're in the US. So you can see here that it's retractable, and you can pull it out and then tighten it here. And now to the bow. So you can see the bow here is primarily a wooden stick, mostly made out of Pernambuco wood. And I'm turning a screw here at the end, the silver part here, just to show you that you can actually very easily take apart the bow. So you've got the wood, and there's horsehair in the lower part of the bow. So I'm screwing it back up again, and what that does is when I turn it to the right, it tightens the bow hair. Okay, so now you can see that there's a little bit of tension between the bow hair and the wood of the stick. And so when we play at this part, people call this the tip, or they call it the point of the bow, or the top of the bow. When we get down here, it's the frog or the heel or the nut of the bow. So sometimes people talk about the balance point in the bow, and that is simply where the bow naturally balances. So they might talk about that balance point as it helps us as we play. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.